Hello and welcome to Geeky Bit. Today in tech history, I'd like to talk to you about the zip drive. It's not some obscure innuendo, it is an actual storage device from the 90s and early 2000s. The zip drive was first introduced in 1994 with a storage capacity of 100 megabytes and later had 250 variants and 750 megabyte variants. The last zip drive was around a 750 megabyte capacity and was being released around 2002. Of course, the zip drive was created by IoMega. IoMega was founded in 1980 and was bought out in 2008 by EMC Corporation, and EMC Corporation was later bought out by Dell. The first zip-like device from IoMega was the Brinali box, which was a 20 megabyte disk. Here's what a more modern USB version of the IoMega zip drive looks like. Now let's take a look at this. This is what an IoMega 100 megabyte disk looks like. And lastly, I have an example of an IoMega 250 megabyte disk. The IoMega 100 and 250 had a read and write speed of about 1.4 megabytes a second to 50 kilobytes a second. The 750 could read and write at about 2.8 to 6.4 megabytes a second. With all of that out of the way, let's get into my story about the IoMega zip drive. The first time I saw or even got to use a zip drive was when my friend Marcus brought over his zip drive. I thought it was amazing that these disks could hold 100 megabytes. The device could even be used on a PC or a Mac, though the formats were clearly different. It turns out that summer I learned another friend, Levi, got a zip drive. So after that I saved up so that I could get a zip drive as well. I worked every hour I could get at the local computer shop job I had. I was finally able to scrape enough together to get the cheaper internal IDE zip drive. Towards the end of me saving up, my boss Chi asked me why I was asking for extra hours. I told him I wanted to get a zip drive, but they were expensive. Then he told me he could sell me one at half off. As a side note, here's what an internal IDE zip drive looks like, and they're about half the price of a normal zip drive at around 100 USD of the time, and I was getting mine for 54. Knowing my boss Chi, he was probably making this deal as it was cheaper than paying me, as he had the zip drives in inventory, and they didn't sell well at our shop, so he could save some money on payroll. I loved that zip drive that I got. I transferred files with my friends all the time, game demos, videos, music, software, all legal of course. There were things that were just too big for a floppy drive that zip drives handled well, like StarCraft maps or subspace maps. None of us at the time had the money for the early CD burners, and even if we did, the discs were $12 a piece and you could only write to them once. I still have my old zip drive too to this day, and a USB one as well. Here are my thoughts about the zip drive. I think the zip drive was well ahead of its time, and it rested on that fact for far too long, and then other better technologies started to emerge. When IoMega realized this, they took too long to come to market with better products, i.e. the zip drive 750 coming out in late 2002. DVD burners were out by 2003, and somewhat common by 2004. I think if IoMega had focused on the Jaz Drive, say, and gotten it up to 4 to 8 gigabytes, things would have been very different today. Imagine for a moment if the Jaz Drive had become the go-to replacement for the zip drive and had gotten an IDE in parallel models and saw a 4 to 8 gigabyte upgrade in capacity in the early 2000s. If that happened instead of IoMega making a random starving idea of the month product, maybe we would see today a 10 to 100 terabyte zip/Jaz drive today. Sadly, we will never know now. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it as much as I did making it, feel free to like this video, and if you're not subscribed already, feel free to do so. And if you'd like to get notifications of future videos, ring that bell button.